Rain lashed against the courthouse windows as Daniel Carter was led into the courtroom in handcuffs. His face was lean and weathered from years on the streets, a rough stubble covering his jaw. His clothes were torn, his boots cracked, yet his back remained straight, the posture of a soldier who once carried the weight of others' lives on his shoulders. Few in the room saw a man. They saw a vagrant, another statistic. But that was about to change. The judge glanced down at the case file. State versus Daniel Carter. Charges: trespassing and petty theft. The prosecutor, Robert Hale, spoke with crisp confidence. Your Honor, the defendant broke into private property belonging to Mr. Richard Collins. He was found with items from the building in his possession. The state requests the maximum sentence. At the defense table sat Emily Ross, a nervous young public defender fresh out of law school. It was her first solo case, and she was painfully aware that her performance could decide her future at the firm. She looked at Daniel, silent, still, eyes unreadable. When he moved his hand into his coat pocket, she noticed the faint glint of something. Metallic. A coin maybe. A habit. 3 nights earlier, during a freezing storm, Daniel had broken into an abandoned warehouse owned by Collins. He wasn't stealing. He was trying not to die. The police found him asleep in a corner beside a few scraps of cardboard and a broken chair. Collins had insisted on pressing charges anyway. Emily had spent days trying to get Daniel to open up. He refused to talk about his past, but his manners, the way he said, "ma'am," the way he folded his blanket with hospital corners, told her everything she needed to know. This man had once worn a uniform. At 5 a.m., Emily awoke surrounded by legal papers, cold coffee, and exhaustion. Determined to find something to save her client, she went to the Riverside Veterans Outreach Center, a crumbling building that looked ready to collapse. Funding's been cut again, said Tom Delgado, the center's director, tapping his prosthetic leg. You said you're helping Daniel Carter? Yeah, I know him. Doesn't talk much. PTSD bad. He saved lives, though. I can tell you that. Tom leaned back, eyes distant. Once, a car backfired outside during a thunderstorm. He dropped his soup, started barking orders like we were under fire, got everyone under cover before realizing where he was. Then he disappeared for weeks. The story hit Emily hard. She'd read the statistics. Over 40,000 veterans homeless across the country, many battling unseen wars long after coming home. Daniel was one of them. She also dug into the complainant, Richard Collins, a wealthy developer with political friends and a company, Collins Defense Systems, that once supplied the military. Years earlier, it had been linked to faulty gear that cost soldiers lives overseas. The case had quietly vanished. When she confronted the prosecutor, he smirked. Your client's a repeat trespasser. Collins is a respected donor. Take the plea, 30 days in community service. That's generous. Emily refused. He's not a criminal, she said. He's a veteran. Then maybe he should have made better choices, Hale replied coldly. In the library that night, Emily unearthed an old article. Military contractor under fire, faulty equipment blamed for 13 deaths. The grainy photo showed Collins at a fundraiser. She remembered Tom's words, Daniel's discipline, his haunted eyes, and everything started connecting. The equipment failure, the contractor, the loss, and one more thing, a name that appeared in the article, Captain Daniel Carter, U.S. Army, Bravo Unit. Emily stared at it, heart pounding. Her client wasn't just a veteran. He was the commanding officer of the unit that had suffered during that operation, the one whose equipment had failed. The next morning, in the holding cell, she confronted him. Daniel, she said softly, I know about Bravo Unit. He froze. Then you know enough to walk away. No, Emily insisted. Tell me the truth. Why are you here? Why is Collins after you? Daniel sighed heavily, his voice low. 7 years ago, I blew the whistle on Collins Defense Systems. Our gear failed, weapons jammed, armor cracked, radios went silent. Men died. I filed reports. They ignored me. I went outside the chain of command. Next thing I knew, I was discharged. Benefits gone. Record destroyed. They made sure I'd never work again. Emily's throat tightened. And now Collins wants revenge. His son, Daniel murmured. Lieutenant Aaron Collins. He died that day. I tried to save him, but the radios failed. His father blamed me. The trial began under heavy rain. The courtroom was packed, veterans, journalists, even Collins himself sitting proudly behind the prosecutor's table. Judge Margaret Reynolds, known for her fairness, presided with quiet authority. She kept glancing at Daniel as though she'd seen him before. Emily started carefully, calling Tom Delgado as a witness. He testified about Daniel's service, his discipline, and the night he'd shielded others during a flashback. When she brought up Bravo Unit, Hale objected, calling it irrelevant. Judge Reynolds frowned. Overruled. Continue. Tom's voice grew steady. Bravo Unit lost 13 soldiers that day because their equipment failed. The supplier? Collins Defense Systems. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Collins shifted in his seat, face pale. Emily pressed on. Captain Carter reported those failures, didn't he? He did. And they buried it. When Daniel took the stand, the room fell silent. His voice was calm but firm. We were ordered to hold position, he said. When the radios went dead, I split my men, half to higher ground, half to protect the wounded. I went back for the comms team myself. Some made it. Some didn't. Lieutenant Aaron Collins didn't. Collins suddenly stood, his voice breaking. He left my son to die. The gallery gasped. Judge Reynolds banged her gavel for silence. Emily seized the moment. Your Honor, the complainant has just admitted his personal vendetta. This case isn't about trespassing. It's revenge. The judge's expression changed, realization dawning. Captain Daniel Carter, she whispered. You were the officer who rescued my son, Lieutenant Ryan Reynolds, during that mission. Gasps filled the courtroom. Daniel looked up, stunned. Your son survived? Yes, the judge said, her voice trembling. Because of you. The entire courtroom rose, veterans, reporters. Even the clerk, in silent respect. The following week, the case made national headlines. A decorated veteran, framed by the man whose greed had killed his own son. Collins was arrested for obstruction and fraud. Daniel's charges were dismissed. General Stephen Mitchell of the U.S. Army visited the courtroom personally. Captain Carter, he said, extending his hand. Your record has been corrected. Discharge upgraded to honorable. All benefits and back pay restored. The Army failed you, but it won't happen again. Daniel nodded, emotion flickering across his face. Thank you, sir. But others still need help. That evening, he joined Emily and Tom outside a repurposed building downtown, one of Collins's seized properties. Snow fell softly as they hung a new sign above. The entrance, Bravo House. No veteran faces winter alone. Inside, volunteers prepared beds, food, and medical stations for veterans who had nowhere else to go. Donations poured in from across the city after Daniel's story aired. Emily stood beside him. You changed everything, she said quietly. He shook his head. We did. Honor doesn't fade, Emily, even when the world forgets. Months later, Bravo House became a national initiative for homeless veterans. Emily founded a legal nonprofit for veteran rights. Tom managed outreach. And Daniel, once a man in chains, became its director, guiding others home. As he looked out across the crowd at the shelter's one-year anniversary, the same judge who had once presided over his trial handed him a plaque. For courage beyond the battlefield, she said. Daniel smiled, his voice steady and proud. Honor doesn't fade, he repeated. It survives every storm. The audience, soldiers, citizens, and those once forgotten, stood as one. And in that moment, under the falling snow of Riverside City, Captain Daniel Carter was not homeless. He was home.